Hello and welcome to Strong and Curious. Today's another episode in the segment of Curious About Culture. In this episode, we talked about gender roles, the concepts of honor, politeness, and stoicism in the Sudanese culture, and wedding traditions like milk spitting and whipping, as well as the current crisis in the country, and much, much more. Enjoy. As an introduction, here are a few fun facts about the country. Sudan is a country located in Northeast Africa, known for its fascinating history and diverse cultural heritage. Sudanese culture is shaped by its Arab, African, and Islamic influences. The country is home to numerous ethnic groups, each with its own traditions, languages, and music. Sudan is a country with a deep appreciation for hospitality, family values, and a rich tapestry of traditions that have evolved over centuries. Sudan is home to more pyramids than Egypt. The Sudanese people are known for their hospitality and warm welcome in nature. Guests are often greeted with traditional Sudanese coffee, known as jibina, and treated with generosity and respect. My guest today is Mohamed. He grew up in South Korea, but he is full Sudanese and grew up with its culture. Enjoy. So how come you're in Korea? What are you doing here?
I'm originally from Sudan, but I was born and raised in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
My dad came here 30 years ago, actually, in the 92, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was basically in a long distance relationship with my mom.
Okay.
And then in 1997 is when my mother came in. They gave birth to me in 1999, and here I am.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So have you ever lived in Sudan?
Not extensively. The most I've ever lived in Sudan, 3 months, I think. I used to go every year when I was a kid because my parents always thought it was important to understand and learn about the culture and the language of my own country.
Yeah.
Because it can get lost when I'm living, abroad. So they made it, very essential, important to go back to Sudan every summer vacation. We had an Arabic teacher, a Quran teacher, and we just chilled with the fam.
Okay. So does most of your family still live there, or do you have some over here?
Most of my family lives in my extended family. They live in Sudan, almost all of them. My immediate family, my parents, and one brother of mine, we live in South Korea, and I have my youngest brother who's in Sudan right now. He's doing medical school there.
Okay. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the two cultures?
Oh, how many hours do we have today? How many days do we have? I mean, I could go on, forever. It's endless. I think, the difference between cultures it's beautiful to see because it's like relative and the contrast. But I think the biggest difference would be the guest culture, greetings, and how gatherings work. And just like societal norms and cultural norms.
Yeah.
I think that's the largest thing because maybe most of the viewers don't know, but Sudan is a very cultural and is very, in terms of culture and traditions, we like to preserve everything as much as possible.
Yeah. Keep up the traditions.
Exactly. You have to keep up the traditions. Not a little bit less so than Korea, because South Korea, even if I remember my dad used to tell me back in the 90s when he was here, during Chuseok and Seollal, which are the two most important holidays in Korea. One is Lunar New Year, Seollal, and the other one is Chuseok, which is Thanksgiving in Korea.
Yep.
There was no store that would open, no cabs, no nothing. Like the country would shut down. But now it's like any other day. People don't really care about that. People are just more worried about, hey, like, you got to make money, you got to work, you got to hustle, you got to study. In Sudan, we like to relax.
Yeah.
We like to relax. We like to have family gatherings, things like that.
So what would you say is an element that you miss, like, from the Sudanese culture here in Korea?
I think something that I miss the most would be the gatherings and also the guest culture.
So the hospitality?
The hospitality, I think, is the largest one because it's not that common for somebody in South Korea to invite you to their home. But in Sudan, if you don't visit someone's house every once in a while, they'll get pissed at you and they'll not talk to you ever again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and when it comes to the gatherings, Sudanese people are very quick. Like if you know somebody, you have a relative who's recently had somebody pass away, weddings, graduation ceremonies, like you have to be there. And we have to be there. You have to enjoy good food. You have to meet everybody. And you have to check up on, everybody. And Sudan, as you might know, is a very tribal culture. We still have, I don't know how much, like over 100 tribes, I think. And that's why I think that's where it really comes from. It's like we have to stick together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I noticed that here the focus is really like in terms of culture on like you got to get results.
Yeah.
You got to work. You got to deliver.
Yeah.
And in the Arab countries, it's a lot more focused on like the relationships and the culture and the family and to value that more.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Sudanese cultures.
Sure.
For example, what languages are spoken in Sudan?
We have over 80 languages in Sudan. But the official language of Sudan, it used to be Arabic and English. I think officially it still is Arabic and English, but yeah, Arabic is the predominant language. And there's also certain tribes, certain people like the Mahas, they're called in the north, who still speak the Nubian language, the older languages of Sudan. But yeah, everybody speaks Arabic there.
Okay. And what languages do you speak?
Arabic, Korean, and English.
Okay.
I wish I could learn more, but
What would you say was your first language? Did you learn Korean first?
To be brutally honest with you, I do not know.
Yeah.
Because the great thing about being immersed in all these different cultures and environments is that when you pick up on the societal norms and languages, you don't really remember it. You just, as soon as you could remember, like, okay, your consciousness is here. Okay, I'm a person. I'm a functioning.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
But I learned Arabic first, according to my mother. God bless her soul. I learned Arabic first at home. And then I learned Korean in preschool, and then I learned English in elementary school. In terms of learning the languages, I think English was the hardest for me just because I learned it a little bit later than the others. But because I was involved and kind of immersed in all these different languages, I actually didn't speak properly until I was 4.
Okay.
So until I was 4, the only things I could say was mom food, mom water. That's it. That's literally it.
Yeah.
And I used to use sign languages. And there's actually, I thought it was just me, bro. I thought it was weird or something, because my brothers didn't have this issue. My brothers grew up in the same environment I did, but there's actually a Sudanese family. They used to live in Korea until a couple of years ago, and they have triplets. And because they learned Korean in preschool, they spoke English after that in school, Arabic at home, and then their housemate, their helper, was Sri Lankan. So they had 4 languages in their ear ever since like their birth. So they couldn't speak until they were 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
Sign languages, things like that. It's actually unbelievable. It's incredible how the human mind works when it comes to languages and things like that.
Yeah. I was born in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, we moved to the French-speaking part when I was 3. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't fluent at 2. So I definitely was like better at French before I was fluent in German. So I know what you mean. I was also like in a mix of languages while growing up.
Yeah, it messes you up. I think it's more so for you because you're in the same country. And then this is like, there's 2 different languages. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So how do you greet each other in Sudan?
So in Sudan, we say Assalamu alaikum, which is peace be upon you for the Arabic speakers. You probably know, or the Muslims. And then the reply to that would be alaikum assalam. And then what we always say is Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. And then كيف الأحوال, كيف الصحة, كيف الأهل. They always ask about your health, your family, and everything that's going on. And then you talk about other things. If you just say hello and without asking about somebody's family or their current situation or their health, it's considered quite rude.
Okay.
So it's important. I think that's kind of what's missing in Korea. Because in Korea, what they say is paboso, which means have you eaten?
Oh,
And it's kind of the same way, because you might know this. But in South Korea, actually, I'll backtrack a little bit.
Go ahead.
I think the viewers might find this interesting. It's that there is a few historians in South Korea at Korea University, which is one of the well-known universities in South Korea, and they basically put out a standard for what would be considered a transition from a developing nation to a developed nation.
Okay.
And what they determined is that if a country is a developing country, it means that the people of that country have less than 2 meals a day.
Okay.
And developed countries would have more than 2 meals, so the regular 3 meals a day.
Okay.
And Korea, until the mid 80s, almost into the 90s, it was not uncommon for people to not be able to eat more than a meal or two a day. So that's why it is kind of the norm to ask 식사하셨나요? Kind of passed downward is basically, it's asking you if everything's okay.
Okay.
Because if you have no problems with eating and taking care of yourself, then it means most likely you're living comfortably.
Yeah.
And if not, it means there's something very wrong. So yeah, I think that's kind of where the similarities are. Yeah.
Okay. So you said that it's custom to ask about the other's family and stuff.
Must.
You have to. So you have to do this. So in the US, it's common to ask, how are you? And in the US, it's really just something you say, but nobody really cares about the answer. But how is it in Sudan? Do you actually expect them to really open up and really say like what's going on? Or is it more like an expected answer, just good, something like this?
I think this really depends for everyone, because Sudanese males, and I think the Sudanese guys here, or I think most North African or Arab guys would agree in the fact that we are expected to be masculine, and obviously speaking on your emotions or your difficulties kind of lessens that, and it makes you emasculate. So in Sudan, it depends per person, I think. If it's a very close friend of yours, you'd say, yeah, actually, my parents are not feeling that well. Oh, actually, I've had this issue, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody that you're not that close to, you say, yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank God everything's fine. Thank God.
Okay. I also read that it's considered impolite to ask about someone's wife. Is that true?
This also depends. So me personally, I have a few friends of mine that are married. I don't ask extensively, obviously. So for instance, hey, how are you? How's your kids? How's the madame? That's it.
Okay.
But how's your wife? I heard she's trying to do this, she's trying to do that. Depending on the background and the thinking of that man you're talking to, they might be bothered by it.
Okay.
They definitely might be bothered by it because it's a very male-centric society, very male-centric culture. So for him, it's like, well, why are you asking about my wife? Are you questioning my ability to take care of her? Or
okay.
It's
so
like
kind of
that.
a pride thing.
But I think that it's definitely a pride thing. But I think, yeah, it depends. It depends. Even I think the weird thing about Sudan is that everything depends from neighborhood to neighborhood, sometimes from city to city, from village to village. It depends.
Yeah, but that's always the same thing. You can't generalize.
It's hard. It's very
anything.
difficult to generalize. I'm trying my best to give everybody the big picture on what to think, but it's hard.
Yeah. No, I get it. No worries.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Then I found also that it's considered impolite, or also you just don't really do this to touch the opposite gender. And when I say touch, I mean even just like a handshake or something.
Hell no. So the crazy thing about Sudan is until the 80s, Sudan was almost a secular state.
I'm sorry, what?
Secular. So religion was not a factor in terms of laws or culture, societal norms, maybe.
Okay.
That makes sense. Like Turkey.
Yep.
But ever since an Islamic government came through in the coup of 1989, I believe, when Omar al-Bashir became president,
Uh-huh.
they really pushed the Islamic way of living and its Islamic everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that is when kind of it started to shift in Sudan. But basically, the way to find out actually is if you walk up to a woman or you have to greet a woman.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I say Assalamu alaikum from keeping my distance,
Uh-huh.
and if she reaches her hand out, then I shake it,
Yeah.
and if she doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't.
Okay.
So then you would just say like do that.
Yeah.
Like think.
Okay. Yeah, I
So-
read that that's the case in a bunch of cultures actually. In most Arab countries, it's the case that you
Islamic
don't,
countries,
as a
yes.
man, you wouldn't start it, but if the woman initiates the handshake, then you would reciprocate.
Exactly, because you don't want to put the other the woman in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Because if you reach out your hand, then she's kind of feels obliged to
Yeah.
reach out and say hi back.
Okay.
But it depends, obviously. Most women are not like that.
Mhm.
Most women are okay with handshakes.
Okay.
Hugs, no. Hugs is a different story, but handshake,
Yeah.
nothing wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I read that handshakes hugs is only like maybe between women,
Yeah,
but not
exactly.
across
No,
sexes. Yeah.
definitely not across genders. No, even cousins. No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Crazy, but I mean, you would like hug your mother, I would assume.
course,
Yeah.
Hug my mom all the time. Yeah,
Okay.
when I'm feeling sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I also read that it's common to refer to people by their titles, meaning like you say uncle and aunt and doctor, or also Haji.
Hajj.
Sorry, please explain. What is that? Where does
So I'll start with the uncle and auntie thing first.
Mhm.
To my parents' friends, I call them uncle and aunt. Ammo, uncle. So I say Ammo Pascal, for instance.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one would be Khaltu. So Khaltu this.
Okay.
And it's just like a form of respect. Nothing more. And when it comes to titles and prestige, it's a very important thing in Sudanese culture.
Okay.
If you are a doctor, professor, teacher, or an engineer, in most cases, rather than not, people will refer to you by your title and then your name.
Okay.
But if it's somebody that's a little bit more closer, you just refer to them by their title.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Hey, doc. Like, hi, doctor.
So you mentioned earlier you have like a medical family, so they're in the medical business. So even if it's your close relative, would you still refer to them as doctor, or do you say just their name?
I just call them uncle something.
Okay.
Like, they're my uncles.
Yeah.
So they're my uncles. So I call them uncles first. But for instance, if it's a friend of mine that's either a doctor or professor, so professor would be a prof, or sometimes doctor,
Yeah.
because they'd have a PhD. And for medical doctors, so yeah, doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, doctor or engineer, bashmuhandis. Actually, as soon as I started my engineering program at university, people started calling me
Doesn't.
coin there. As soon as I started my program here, my engineering program, people started calling me bashmuhandis.
Okay.
Bashmuhandis, which means engineer. That's my title.
Oh, okay.
But it's like kind of like an endearment and kind of like, hey, we wish you to be a great engineer.
Okay.
Puts a lot of pressure on me. Now I can't drop out.
And another thing, the Hajj.
Hajj. Hajj. Yeah, Hajj is basically Hajj and Hajjah.
Okay.
For people that have completed the pilgrimage,
Okay.
well, which are usually older gentlemen,
Yeah.
we call them Hajj. And
Okay.
then older women that have completed the pilgrimage, we call them Hajjah.
What's a pilgrimage?
The Mecca pilgrimage
Mhm.
in Saudi Arabia, us Muslims were required, if able to, like if your body's functioning okay and you're able to afford it, you have to do a pilgrimage in Mecca
Okay.
for the Kaaba, the holy site,
Okay.
and then we have to. So, but for instance, if you call a slightly younger woman that's completed the pilgrimage, Hajj, she'll be offended to an extent. And not too offended, but because Hajj is just when you say Hajj or Hajj, people expect you that you're talking about somebody that's older.
Okay. So if you say this to a younger woman, it's like, you're old.
Kind of. So actually, one of my friends called my mom Haji. I don't know if he's watching this. His name is Ahmed. He called my mom Haji, and then my mom, like the next day or so, said, "Why did he call me that? Like I'm not even that old. I don't even look that old." So it's a bit complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, so I found a concept in the Sudanese culture about honor, and please correct me if I say it wrong. Sharaf.
Sharaf.
Okay. Could you please explain what is this?
This goes back to what I was talking about when it comes to culture and honor and tradition. And Sudanese people, we take reputation very seriously.
Yeah.
We take it extremely seriously. So when it comes to Sharaf, if let's say one person in a certain family, let's say some kid, for example, obviously alcohol is forbidden in our religion, and it was illegal for Muslim citizens to consume alcohol in Sudan.
Yeah.
Let's say you drink alcohol and your neighbors find out about it. It's a very big problem.
Okay.
Very big problem, to the point where those neighbors could alienate that entire family just because of that one person.
Damn.
It's tough. So even, that's why my parents are always, tell me to be careful.
Yeah.
Because Sudanese, I think I love my culture, I love my country, I love my people. There's nothing I want more for Sudanese people, but for them to do well and everything, it's great. But one thing I have an issue with when it comes to Sudanese culture, it's this. It's how can you alienate an entire person or family because of a mistake?
Yeah.
And I think it's very harsh. And I think it's one of the very, very few negative things about our cultural norms.
So how would you actually feel this? Let's say let's use the example, just some kid in the family drinks alcohol, it comes out. And then 2 years later, he applies for a job. And the guy responsible to give or not give the job finds out about this. Do you think this... Really? This would already be enough?
They won't hire. Actually, what happened is my father in Sudan, he runs an agricultural project. He's a farmer now.
Okay.
As of recently, a few years. He's very proud about it, and I hope it goes very well for him.
Yeah.
He had a excavator driver, and it turned out he smoked bangu hashish, like weed, on occasion.
Okay.
Fired him on the spot.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how much we take those kind of things seriously. Our culture, if you go a little bit out of the social norms or cultural norms, they punish you, and it's ugly. It's not nice.
Okay.
It's very harsh when it comes to these kind of things.
Okay.
I think I actually spoke to somebody I very highly respect. She actually used to be in the government in Sudan. And she visited Korea a couple of years ago, and I was talking to her about this thing. And we were talking about why Sudanese people in general are less averse to taking risks and trying new things. And we kind of came to a conclusion after the very long conversation that I think this is the issue. The reason why Sudanese people don't like taking risks and don't like exploring new things and are always very paranoid and worried about staying within the rules of the given society or environment that you're in is because we're so wired that if you step out even a little bit, you will get punished severely.
Okay.
And that's the issue with our culture.
Yeah, I get it. It's got to be difficult to have to be so careful all the time to not step out of line.
Yeah, there's a lot of haters out here, man. Sudanese people, the aunts and aunties, whoa.
Yeah.
The uncle and aunties, I mean, they're tough, man. They're tough. So I have to also be very careful, and I have to carry myself in a certain way when I'm with people from my country, especially if they're close to my parents. And even if I don't care, I have to care because of my parents' reputation.
Yeah.
And my parents have been here for a very long time in South Korea. And they're also very involved, and they're well known in their respective cities and villages in Sudan. So any little thing I do can be not good for them. So I have to be very careful.
Okay. Then another concept I found is adab,
Adab, yeah.
that it's politeness.
Yeah.
And I found the definition is the proper way to go about something.
Yeah.
Is that also a big thing in the culture?
Very.
So it's just about being polite, or what does it mean?
It's about being polite and just not causing a mess or not making other people think negatively of you. Actually, I remember when I was a very loud and noisy and annoying kid when I was young.
Yeah.
Whenever we used to visit our family or relatives or just family friends, my mom, everything, she used to repeat this like every time, like on our way there, like every 2 minutes. Khalik muaddab, khalik muaddab, which means, stay put, behave. That's what it means. So it's the same word, adab and muaddab.
Okay. So get it together, be polite.
Yeah, get it together. Don't be rude.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't be annoying.
And another thing I found is Stoicism and fatalism. Basically meaning, so for the ones who don't know what Stoicism is, it's the endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. Is this true that it's like common you should hide your pain and you shouldn't show that you're struggling?
Yeah. I think in Sudan, one of the beautiful things that we have is the incredible diversity of cultures, even within Sudan, within the tribes, within the different ethnic groups. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think the tribes and some people are a little bit more prone to the masculinity and the caring, more prone to caring about the masculinity of a person. So obviously, I think this is not really a Sudan thing. I think this is for men all over the world, is that we are not allowed to not really not allowed, but it's not good to express your issues or hardships or emotions, because that makes you look vulnerable and weak. And unfortunately, for most men around the world, this is a very unfortunate reality. It's that if you express yourself in a certain way, society is very frowned upon it. We have no choice. You have to stay strong in order to deal with the BS that men deal with. It's very hard being a man today.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's even hard being a Sudanese man. I think all the things that make it difficult to be a man in today's world, it's exacerbated. It's even more.
Yeah.
It's multiplied when it comes to Sudanese men.
Okay.
Because we have to be strong. A Sudanese man has to be strong. And even like my mother, if I did, certain things, and she'd always say, like, man up, like, be a man. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I was actually a lot bigger and I was cutting.
Okay.
And I was asked to doing intermittent fasting, and I felt very weak. And my mom asked me to move this, like, I swear, it's like a box, but it weighed like 3 tons or something. And then I picked it up, and then I was like, I was kind of struggling. I picked it up fine, but I was struggling a little bit. And my mom was like, what is wrong with you? Be a man. Are you not a man? Like,
Really?
what? Even girls can pick this up.
Damn.
Yeah, it's quite unforgiving.
Damn.
It's very funny. We make fun of it all the time. There's a lot of jokes and memes that pop up, over those things. But it's definitely a reality. And to all the Sudanese men out there and men all over the world, if you're watching this, I know your pain. It's difficult to be a man in today's world, but we have to deal with it no matter what. And may God help you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. It's hard to be a man in today's day of age. You got to be strong. You always got to keep the image of having it together. Keep it alive.
Keep your problems locked in a box and eat the key. That's basically what you have to do.
One thing I always ask is, how safe is it to walk down the street in Sudan?
In Sudan, I think it depends. I think Sudan, ever since the 90s, we've unfortunately been in civil wars and border disputes with the countries around us. We had the dispute in South Sudan, which is now a separate country as of 2011. South Sudan is the youngest country in the world, and Sudan, it's not called North Sudan, it's just called Sudan. Sudan in itself, we had the conflict in Darfur.
Okay.
We've had the conflict in Halaib, which is like a small trait. It's like triangular looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a disputed land between Sudan and Egypt.
Okay.
We've also had Al-Fashaga, which is a disputed land towards the border of Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
So towards those regions, it's extremely difficult to walk around. It's not safe for tourists. It's not even safe for nationals, especially with the conflict in Sudan, as there is a militia that's basically committing genocide,
Really?
ethnic cleansing, essentially.
Really?
Yeah.
So, how would you actually experience this? That they will literally just shoot people on the street?
Yeah, they literally go around burning up villages and killing everyone.
The militia is who does that within Sudan, or
Yeah, the militia, by order directly from the president at the time.
okay,
The president at the time, who was, as I mentioned before, brought in in 1989, Umar al-Bashir. He came by a coup. There came an Islamic government, and it just started genocide, and it really got bad. And it was happening before 2003 a little bit, but 2003 is when it really took off and it started to get international attention. And a lot of the people that are in the government, were in the government in Sudan and current, are wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes in Darfur.
okay,
They've killed hundreds of thousands of people.
okay,
It's an absolute travesty, and that same militia that is doing this, actually the military, the Sudanese army was also involved in this.
yeah,
And the militia and the military, obviously this Omar al-Bashir, this president, sorry, I'm jumping a little bit all over the place, but this president was overthrown via coup in 2019. And then what happened is Sudan, we went into a transitional government and a power sharing agreement
okay,
between the militia, which, because the old president assigned them the mountain where it basically has the largest gold reserves in Sudan,
yeah,
they're extremely wealthy.
okay,
Actually, the family that runs the militia, Al-Daglu, they're actually one of the wealthiest families in Africa now.
really?
So we have a very well-funded militia and a military that used to be well-funded. They got into a power sharing agreement, and I think this was only last April, just a month and a half ago, or almost 2 months ago, they got into a dispute, and now there's a full-blown civil war going on in Sudan between the militia and the military.
That's going on right now.
It started in the capital city.
Yeah,
So most people have evacuated the capital city. There's thousands of innocent people that are dying. It's an absolutely unfortunate situation, as the path to democracy via the transitional government was looking decent. It was looking like it was going to happen. First democracy to Sudan since the 1960s. But yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation. Many people are dying. Airports are shut. Schools have been suspended. Government organizations suspended. And the issue is because the militia, a lot of the militia members, which is, I feel like it's not talked enough in the media, a lot of the militia members are not Sudanese. They're either from Niger or Chad and those African countries. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you can't have an organization that is responsible, or they have so much rights and control over a security of a country, for them to be foreigners.
yeah,
It's not fair. Like, would you accept a foreign leader as your country's military if you've had disputes with that country?
yeah, no,
Exactly. Hell no. It's a very tough situation, and I don't know if anybody is watching this, but I hope if you are a person in a position of power in the Western world, I urge you to, there are negotiations going on right now between the militia and the military, but please, every share, retweet, if you just tell your friends about this issue, this really helps the people of Sudan. And just please, just take time out of your maybe morning commute for 30 seconds to a minute to look up this issue and to learn more about it.
yeah,
Because I think it's a true travesty, and it's very difficult for Sudanese people right now, because we are basically watching our country collapse right in front of our eyes, and the rest of the world is moving on without us as if we don't exist. And it's a betrayal. We're all humans, and I think we should look out for each other at times like this. But difficult situation.
Yeah, that sounds really insane.
It's crazy.
So you said some schools are also suspended.
Yeah, my brother who attends medical school, so luckily for him, this war broke out a week during Ramadan.
Okay.
By the way, just a week before it.
Of this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 months ago.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. That's why the Sudanese diaspora here, or the community here in South Korea, we actually went to the South Korean parliament to voice our problems, because the more international attention we can get, the more pressure there is on the military and the militia to get to an agreement.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brother, he was in the capital city. Actually, it's funny, the apartment he was living in got blown up a week after he left.
Really?
Yeah, and he actually went to my mother's...
Lucky man, dude.
He actually went to my brother's... Oh, not my brother's, sorry, my mother's hometown for Eid, which is our celebration towards the end of Ramadan. And yeah, it just got blown to pieces. And when we saw the pictures, it's heavy. It's
but
very
how
heavy.
come? Was he like some political figure that he was...
No, it's just that,
targeted?
No, the issue is because this war started within the capital city of Sudan.
Yeah.
It's a difficult situation for both sides of the conflict, because now the militia members are hiding in people's homes. And because the military can't really do much about it, the only thing they can do, and it's obviously very dangerous for you to go into a city or like a congested area and fight the enemy when the enemy's in hiding.
Yeah.
So what the military's doing now is that they're dropping bombs from the sky via planes and rocket launchers.
That's fucking crazy. So they just randomly blow up stuff in the hope of
killing a guy or two.
Okay, but what? That's insane.
It's unbelievable. Actually, I was talking to my cousin the other day. Sorry, I didn't want to make this all about this war, but I think people might want, that might be interested. I was talking to my cousin. He works for he's an engineer for a telecommunications provider in Sudan. And they basically were required to go to work during this war because the internet has to work. The cell service has to work, or else it's going to be very inconvenient for millions of people.
Yeah.
And he got a call from one of his friends that work in a different branch of the same company very far away. And he told him, hey, look, it's impossible for me to get to my family right now because of this conflict. They ran out of money 3 days ago. They are out of food. They don't have running water. And the electricity is out. There's a blackout. So could you please get to them? And he was like, I have no choice. I have to. He has to risk his own life to go see his friends, family, or his coworkers, family members. And he went out, and as soon as he got by the block, he saw two people running. Right across. He was like, what the hell's going on? And before he could really think about the situation, 2 sniper bullets, one right in front of his nose, one right behind, just pew, boom, and then it penetrated the wall.
Damn.
He was in disbelief and immediately ducked down.
Yeah, hopefully.
Immediately ducked down, and there was this spray of bullets that were just going on right above his head into the wall, which he was lying down next to.
He's okay?
Yeah, he's okay now.
Okay.
And this is the issue of urban warfare. It's very difficult for the military, even the militia, to figure out who's an enemy and who's a civilian.
Yeah.
So they just...
So just hope for the best.
Hope for the best, yeah.
Kill everyone in sight.
So basically he had, so my cousin, he had these bullets going over his head. And then as soon as the bullets stopped, he crawled. As soon as he turned the corner next to a car, he just dashed. He made a run for it. And something he told me is as he was running and going to, obviously he didn't go to his co-worker's family because he was just too scared, so he just went home. But on his way home, there was literally a car with civilians in it that was blown up via grenade. You could just see like the bodies of the people that are still there. It's just skull and flesh.
Yeah.
It's everything torn up and burned.
Yeah.
It's messed up. The Sudan, I think, is one of the largest crises, and the issue is people are so focused on the war in Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
But the war in Sudan is a proxy war. It's literally the militia supported by Russia, the United Arab Emirates, and Libya. The military is supported by the U.S. and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. It's a proxy war, and it's an extreme shame how other countries that are more powerful can get away with a proxy war like this and destroying an entire country. And a lot of innocent people are dying. It's extremely annoying, and a lot of countries are now refusing visas for Sudanese people because they're worried that they would go there and seek refuge. So I was actually going to go to Dubai in 3 weeks to go see my uncle. He lives in Dubai. They stopped visas for Sudanese people. Egypt stopped visas. Ethiopia stopped visas. So there's a lot of people in Sudan that are stuck in the borders.
Huh. But that's crazy. Why would they deny them?
They're just worried about the huge sums of people just coming into their country, and it being a problem.
Okay.
But even then, you know, Ethiopia and Egypt, whenever they had border disputes and issues, Sudan was the first country to allow them in. And even with the conflict in Syria, Sudan was one of the only countries in the world that offered Syrians almost unconditional citizenship in Sudan as soon as they arrived.
Okay.
And this is how other people treat us. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah, I really hope that's going to turn around soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for raising awareness. Like, it's interesting to talk about this.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the platform to do so.
Of course.
Much appreciated.
So let's talk about medical care. So I read that it's theoretically free to get medical care, but the problem is just that there's a shortage of doctors and just general healthcare personnel. Is that true?
Absolutely. Medical care in Sudan is free. However, because the pay for doctors in Sudan is very weak, if it is not a private hospital, if it's just a general, like a hospital, like a government-funded hospital, then the pay is very bad.
Okay.
It's not great, and the supplies are not there. Actually, what happens in Sudan is if you get admitted to a hospital, let's say you know, God forbid, you tore you broke your hand or you tore something, then you need stitching, and you also need like a Band-Aid and cast.
Yeah.
You're lying there in pain. Because they don't have the supplies, the doctor will write you a list of the things that you need. They'll give it to your family member. They said, go to the pharmacy nearby and buy them.
Really?
Yeah.
So you go ahead and get the supplies, and then they can come back and the doctor will stitch you up with the materials that they gather? That's crazy.
And if you're unlucky and it's like there's no pharmacy nearby, or it's too late towards the night, and there is no pharmacy that's open, then you're screwed. So actually, the fantastic thing about Sudanese people is that we help each other. And even in times of despair and difficulty, we are able to look at the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's interesting. We actually have a Twitter page and Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups that are just for sourcing medical things and things like that. So for instance, if you need a Band-Aid, you need stitches, you need medicine, medication of some sort, you would go into this group, hey, I need this, this, and this. And then somebody would say, hey, I own this pharmacy in this street, give me your location, I'll have somebody send it right over.
Okay.
So we are all trying to...
But that's nice that they try to support each other.
I love it.
Okay, that's cool.
There's these little things that,
that make a difference.
Hope.
Yeah. Let's talk about something entirely different, which is food.
Wow.
So,
I love food.
What would you say is a classic Sudanese dish?
Ooh. A classic Sudanese dish, which is something that I would put money on this. Every single Sudanese person living in Sudan eats this at least once a day. I'm willing to bet the house on this. It's called furi. Furi. So it's basically baked beans with seasoned. And the great thing about this dish is that it's baked beans, and then you season it with whatever the heck you want it to be.
Okay.
It's like a sundae. It's like a vanilla ice cream, but the toppings you're free to do whatever. That's kind of the beauty of it, or like Subway sandwiches.
Okay.
The food. So people, salt and shamar. I forgot what that. I think it's ground cumins. I believe that's what it is. Cumin powder.
Okay.
It's kind of like the base, and then you put sesame oil
Yeah.
Sudan is very known for the quality of sesame and sesame oil.
Yeah.
Sesame oil, and then we break in like a feta cheese. So we sometimes put in tomatoes, onions, sometimes like a little bit of mish, which is like our version of sour cream. And then we eat that with bread, or we just pour that beans onto a bunch of torn breads.
Okay.
And then we just eat it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love food. It's amazing.
And how do you spell it? F-U-L?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I love food. It's fantastic. And food is, the funny thing about food is that Sudanese people don't mind eating that for any meal of the day.
Okay.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. No problem. We can eat food.
And is that cold or warm?
It's hot.
Okay.
Very hot.
Okay.
Cold food is inedible. Sudanese people here would agree with me, the viewers. Cold food is inedible.
Yeah.
And we also have our own version of fufu, which is called asida.
Yeah.
We have something called kisra, which is similar to the Ethiopian injera,
Okay.
which is like a sour, kind of a sourdough that's basically cooked on a very large, round steel skillet,
Uh-huh.
and it's made very thin. And
Okay.
we usually eat that with our own version of curry. And a lot of Sudanese curries have weka, which is ground up, dried ladyfingers. I think it's called bami. I know everybody, Sudanese people know. Okra.
Okay.
Okra.
And
Okra is like a long vegetable. It
Okay.
kind of looks like a pepper, kind of. So we dried that, and then we ground it, and then we add it into the curry, and it gives it a very gooey consistency,
okay.
which makes it easier to scoop
Yeah.
with the asida
Yeah.
or bread or kisra or
Yeah.
gulasa even.
Okay. And in general, in Sudan, do you also eat rather with your hands than with like forks and stuff?
If you show up to eat asida or kisra with a fork or a spoon, people will remember that. people will comment on it. It's not really a big deal. People will comment, like, the heck are you doing? That's not the way to do it. It's like those people, how do you eat a burger?
With hands.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you think of the people that eat burger with a fork and a knife?
Oh, that's weird.
Exactly. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
That's not how, you can eat something however you want, but it's just better. You enjoy it more if you just eat it everything with your hands together, sitting together. That's how we eat.
Okay. All right. And I also read that it's usually a very sharing kind of food experience. So when you eat together with like your family or whatever, that it's more common that you have like a big plate that everybody eats from. It's rather uncommon that everybody has like their own proper individual plate.
Yeah.
Is that the thing?
Having your own individual plate is usually for buffets, and it's seen as quite posh.
Okay.
But even in the highest levels of gatherings or whatever, people eat. We have a huge tray with multiple plates on it. I'll send you a picture of a typical Sudanese.
Yes,
set.
please do. Yeah. Okay.
And everybody gets down and eats together. We eat by hand, and obviously we still have our own like norms when it comes to eating with our hands. And because you're eating from your hand and directly to your mouth and then back down again, let's say we have a plate of asida, which is the fufu. You only eat on one side. You can't jump sides.
Oh, yeah. So you only eat the part that's like closest to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's the norm. And obviously we are very meticulous about making sure you wash your hands before and after you eat.
Yeah.
And that's how we eat. And I think when you're with your close relatives or whatever, and you get down and you eat together with your hands, it's very simple and very enjoyable, I think, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you eat with your family, like here in Korea? Do you also eat like classic Sudanese meals, and also in this the same setting with like you rather sit on the, I think it's on
floor.
pillows or just on the ground?
Yeah, with like mats.
Do you do the same here?
No, we usually just eat on a table. Just a regular dining table. We still eat with our hands, same traditional Sudanese food. My mom's cooking is incredible, in my opinion. Because my grandma, God bless her, she passed away only a year ago. She was very famous for her cooking. Everybody knew.
Okay.
So if my grandparents were throwing a dinner party or a gathering, you have to go. Food was damn good. And my mom is also incredible at cooking, and you know, God bless her soul, is very difficult, but she makes us fresh Sudanese food every single day.
Okay.
And sometimes we do make like sandwiches, or sometimes we like Indian food at my house, so we made Indian food. We made biryani like 2 days ago.
Okay.
That's like a sometimes thing.
Is it hard to get by like classic Sudanese food here in Korea? Like to find the supplies and stuff?
Yeah. When we come back from Sudan from our vacations, and all Sudanese people would agree with this, is our entire bag would be just full of food supplies.
Yeah.
Because they're all very rare. And a lot of the things that we use in their foods is not found in other cuisines. So it has to be ours. And it's impossible to find in South Korea. We can try to use other things that are similar, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also no Sudanese restaurant in Korea, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't found a Swiss restaurant either.
Yeah.
The thing that blows my mind, have you ever heard of raclette by any chance?
I've heard about it, but I forgot what it was.
That's just like the Swiss food. It's super simple. It's literally just potatoes with a molten cheese on top of it. It's fucking amazing.
Exactly. And do you miss it?
Oh, insanely. It's traditionally, it's like a winter kind of meal, because it's also, here I feel like in Korea, it's when you go eat, it's you sit down and eat and you fuck off. It's very fast, you know. And in Switzerland, it's really, when you go to dinner, that's like the whole evening, you know. It's an experience, you know. You go and it's more for the social interaction, and you take your time with eating. And with raclette, it's the same thing. And yesterday, I came across a raclette in a store here.
No.
Yeah. But, I mean, the raclette cheese, and it's the exact same brand that you would find in Switzerland, so I was stunned. But in Switzerland, you can get like a block of cheese, for which is like 700 grams maybe, and you're going to pay around 10 francs, which is roughly the same as dollars. And this year, it was only 6 slices, so like, I don't know, 200 grams for almost 20,000 won. So it's insane, so expensive. But I was like, I'm going home in 3 weeks anyway. I'm going to wait for the real thing so I can properly enjoy it.
Right up the airport.
Basically, that's the dinner I'm going to have when I get home. Definitely.
Yeah, cheeses are very expensive because import tax is high in Korea, because South Korea's economy is built on manpower and export. So they're very meticulous about making sure there's no trade deficit.
Okay.
So Koreans now, they have the ability to easily purchase a lot of things that are imported, even though they're more expensive. Like, I don't know, you probably be shocked to, when you walk around in Korea, there's almost as many German cars as there is Korean cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've only seen like mostly like Hyundai and just the classic Korean brands, but I've never seen like an Audi. Or
really?
I've seen a few BMWs, but it's about it.
Actually, in Gangnam-gu, which is the best, kind of the richest district in Korea, which is also has the second or third highest population in Korea. The most popular car that was registered there was actually a Mercedes E-Class, I believe.
Okay.
But this was only for like a 6-month period last year. But what I'm trying to get at is, because South Koreans they don't have issues with paying a lot of a premium on imported goods. The South Korean government has to import a very high tax on it. Okay. Actually, this is something I noticed when I made the biryani 2 days ago. I went to buy basmati rice, which is a rice from
I know the one.
And the price jumped double over a week.
Over a week?
Yeah, really? Because the Korean government imposed tax on basmati rice that's imported to encourage more people to buy local rice, because there's apparently like a surplus, and farmers Korea is very good at this. They really protect their farmers.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. Then a different thing. So religion and gender differences in Sudan. So for example, what's the dress code like? Do women have to like cover their hair and face or whatever? Is that an official rule?
It depends on, what do you mean by official rule?
So in some countries it's like enforced by the law, and in others it's not a law, but it's like part of the religion and you should, but if you don't, there's no consequence.
I think there was an incident actually 5 or 10 years ago in a Sudanese university where a girl, she was wearing jeans and no head covering. And she was actually punished by the quote unquote religious police, and apparently they lashed her in public.
What does lashing mean?
With,
Really?
yeah.
Damn, that's an official punishment?
But this was very extreme, and a lot of people complained about it. It was like a huge national topic. So the traditional, so whether or not Sudanese women or girls cover their hair, that's all personal preference. But most do, a large majority do. Regarding the clothes, women that are typically married wear something called a dob, which is a fabric. And inside you would obviously wear like normal clothes sometimes, and then you wrap yourself in this beautiful, usually very colorful and beautiful design fabric around you. And for the men, we wear something called jalabiya and imma, which is what's in your picture later, which is a basically white garment. So it's just like other Arab countries, but the only difference is we have our head garment is basically a long piece of cloth that we hold down here, and then you tie it all the way around your head. And then you tie it up. So it's basically a huge like hat thing. It's quite heavy. Yeah, it kind of hurts your neck if you wear it for the first time. But
beautiful. And is it a thing that you can wear if you want, or do you have to?
What, the jalabiya?
For the thing you said for men, the garment with the hat.
No, I mean the hat part where you roll it up, that's like for special occasions usually. But for whether it's like a normal situation, you just wear like a regular small hat like in the Muslim. Most, actually, you'd be surprised, most people in Sudan just wear that. Because Sudan is such a hot country. Wearing a long, white fabric is very nice, it's cool. It's extremely comfortable. So even in Korea, actually at home, sometimes I wear it because it's so comfortable. Especially when I'm just trying to like do nothing. Just chill on the couch and just flip through movies or play on the PlayStation. That's what I wear. I know it's not mandatory.
And then in terms of family life, I found that it's pretty clearly defined gender roles, meaning that usually the man is the head of the household, and the woman is supposed to like lead the, or rather run the household. Meaning like the man makes the money and the woman looks after the children.
That's absolutely true. As I said before, it's a very male-centric society and culture and country. Therefore, the man is required to go out and make the money, and the woman is required to stay home and take care of the household and the family. And the kids. Actually, something interesting. I have a cool story about this, actually.
Please share.
There was I have to be as vague as possible, because the Sudanese people living here will know who this is. There was a diplomat, Sudanese diplomat, who got stationed in South Korea. This is around 5-6 years ago. And she was already having a dispute with her husband, who was a banker and very well off. He didn't want her to work. He wanted her to stay home and take care of the kids, even though she was extremely good at her job. And she's a diplomat. She got very high. I think she got up to the position as right under ambassador. And she got stationed to Korea. It's a very good opportunity for her because the pay is great. Her kids get to attend school here. She gets to live here. But until the last moment, the husband said, hey, look, you can go, but if you go, we're getting a divorce.
Really? So can the man like really force women to do what he says?
Just to prove that it's a male-centric society. When me and my mom went to Sudan for vacation, we cannot leave the country without the consent of our father.
When you say consent, does that mean like a call and ask him, or like a written
consent, official written consent, or the immigration, the patrol, the Sudan, they won't let you leave the country. Even that's if my dad was in Korea at the time. That's the funny part.
That's insane.
So what ended up happening is the woman, she ignored him, but she came anyways. And the man came chasing her. And my dad was like the mediator. I think trying to bring peace between them. And they ended up not getting a divorce. And that man, throughout all this, he got a second wife, which is allowed in Sudan, obviously.
His second wife meaning while still having...
Yeah,
So to have two wives.
yeah. You can have up to 4 at some point.
Really?
Yeah.
I never read about that. That's
Really?
crazy, no?
Oh, it's in Islam. You can have up to 4 wives.
And is that also common?
No, it's not common.
Okay.
Back then, actually, it was kind of used to bring women out of poverty and also
make sure they
kind
have
of
support.
spread the religion as much as possible.
Okay.
But nowadays, like, unless there's a problem you have with your first wife, let's say she's just not able to give birth, you just have a second wife. Actually, my great-grandfather had 12 wives. He couldn't make a baby from the first 6.
Whoa, really?
So he only got, when he got to 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th, was he able to get a baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So those things happen. Actually, my uncle has 2 wives right now.
And does like the first wife have a say in this? Or does she just have to say...
Technically, she has to consent.
Okay.
Like she have to tell her that you're getting a second wife, and you figure out how to split everything up.
Okay.
But most of the time, they just go out and get a secret second wife.
Okay.
Actually, there's a funny Sudanese joke about this. There's a man, he's a very loyal man, very professional guy, very well known. He died, he passed away. And at his funeral, this woman showed up with a baby. And he was like, oh, this is my husband that just died. And nobody knew. And then the first wife, she was losing her mind. She was like, oh, no, my husband would never do that. My husband, all he does is he goes from home to work, to the masjid, to the mosque for his prayers. And he comes back home again. He's a good man. And the second wife just looked at him. He was like, I'm the masjid. Like, I'm the mosque. That's what he meant by mosque. He was talking about me. So yeah, it's mostly a topic of joke and memes in Sudan, like second wife.
Yeah.
It's not. It almost doesn't happen anymore because it's just so difficult. Like in this economy, like a second wife, it's hard, man. It's expensive. Sudanese weddings are very expensive.
Okay. Crazy. I also found that it's common that you wouldn't let your girlfriend, daughter, wife, whatever, leave the house alone. It's usually accompanied by a man. Is that true as well?
Maybe not accompanied by a man, but in a company in general. Like if a group of girls want to go out somewhere, it's okay.
Just not alone.
Just not alone, because Sudan is a male-centric society, and unfortunately, things happen: catcalling, whatever, abuse. Those kind of things are not common by any stretch of the imagination. They almost never happen, but they do. So, and as a man, you want to protect your family. So in Sudan, if I was living in Sudan and I had a daughter, of course I wouldn't let her go out alone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, I drive you to where you want to go to meet your friends. And when you're done, I'll drive you back.
Okay.
It's that kind of thing.
Okay. Also, so we earlier talked about like the honor of the family, like the image, the reputation of the family. And I read that that women carry like bigger expectations to be good and to not screw up in society and whatever. So it's like the duty of the father or the husband to make sure that the family members are free from scandal. So would you say that this is true, that really the men take like this much care of the woman to make sure they don't do anything stupid to like bring shame upon the family?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. As Mr. Tate so eloquently put it, a promiscuous woman has always been looked down upon through any society, through any time, through whatever. And it's like that in Sudan as well. A woman that is not ladylike or gentle or smart or cultured. It's just, you just look at it like, the hell is that?
Yeah.
And that's the case in Sudan, yeah. And Sudan it was never such a male-centric society, but it kind of became like that under the Islamic regime. But actually, Sudan is one of the first countries in the region to have women as a part of parliament. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe somebody can correct me down in the comments, but in the 1960s, when Sudan got its independence from the UK, from Great Britain, half of our parliament members were women.
Okay.
and we call all the beautiful Sudanese women kandakat, which means kind of like queen, Nubian queen.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I think we're in a transition, I think we're Sudan as a people, we're in a weird spot right now. But yeah, what you said is true.
Okay.
Definitely true.
Then, do you know a little bit about weddings?
I'm single, but yes.
Yeah, I meant, for example,
Yes.
I found some interesting traditions. One of which is the milk-spitting tradition. Could you elaborate? How does this happen?
Damn. Where do I even start? So in Sudan, we as I said, weddings are very costly, and it's a huge thing. And nowadays it's a little bit better, but I remember when my dad told me the story of my uncle. When he got married, the celebrations went on for 10 days.
10 days.
Wow. So you have the henna party, which is you get everybody, the husband and the prospective husband and the wife, the bride and the groom, they get henna on their hands with patterns as a sign of, hey, I'm married. Mm-hmm. So if you have henna, we usually do it on the hand here. If you have henna on your left hand only, it means you're related to the groom.
Okay.
And if you have it on both and your feet, it means you are the groom.
Okay.
So we have that henna tradition. We have the regular wedding tradition, which is the signing and the thing is done in the masjid, obviously at a holy place. And then after that, we do the party. And then after that party is done, the wedding party, we have something called jertig. Mm-hmm. Jertig is what happens. It's like the after party of a wedding. That is just basically the groom, the bride, and that's it. It's like the females from both sides of the family.
Okay.
The groom in that case will be the only guy there. Mm-hmm. Very lucky. And it's just basically music, party, whatever. And to sum it off, to cap it off, the bride, she sips milk and she spits it in front of the
like in the face of the groom.
Like, well, I can sip it.
No, I'm good, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just to show love and bond and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a silly tradition. I think most of it do it because it's a tradition. It's kind of something like, okay, you're getting married, you kind of have to do this.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I think, especially in my generation, I'm 24 by the way, mm-hmm. we think it's a bit silly.
Yeah. Okay. But sounds fun.
Yeah, I guess.
And then I found another tradition, and it's getting whipped at the wedding. Is that really a thing?
That is true. However, it's not common anymore.
Okay.
It's actually very rare now. And this tradition is mostly found in the Janiya tribe, mm-hmm. which is the dominant tribe in Sudan, I think. And I'm part of that tribe, from both parents.
Okay.
And I think we make up around a little bit more than half the Sunnis population. Mm-hmm. And this whipping thing is basically where the groom is basically like, hey, I'm the king, whatever. And then there's usually like crazy upbeat music. And then he just basically gets to whip. And it's kind of, as the relative friend or whatever that's being whipped, is kind of like a way of showing honor, respect. Mm-hmm. I'd like to preface this, or not preface because I already talked about it. I'd like to say I think it's absolutely stupid. Most Sudanese people are stupid, and actually a lot of Sudanese people want to make it illegal to do that. Yeah. It's a stupid tradition, and almost nobody does it. Mm-hmm. And if you ask kind of established members of the tribe and people that know the history, none of them can tell you where it originated from. Mm-hmm. None of them can.
Okay. Yeah, I read that it's the people being whipped is like a way to show a man's chivalry, patience, endurance, and courage. But it still seems just crazy to have to be whipped.
I actually saw it once in person. I thought it was insane.
But like you wear like on your back to get whipped, or
yeah, back.
Okay, but doesn't that leave scars?
Yes, it does.
But okay, that's just
actually I remember I met a guy. He had hella scars. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Oh, look at me, I'm a man, I'm brave," and it's really painful. I don't know how they take that pain. Excuse me.
Yeah,
it's a stupid tradition. I do not condone it. If I were to become president of Sudan, it would be illegal the next day.
Okay, good to know. All right, so we reached the end, and at the end, I always have a little quote. And since Stoicism is a thing in Sudan, I prepared a quote by Marcus Aurelius, and it's everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He also has the book Meditations. I don't know if you've heard of it. I would definitely recommend it. So
Sure.
I actually borrowed it from a friend currently reading it. It's really good.
That's fantastic. That's incredible, man. I thank you for having me. It's my first ever podcast ever. But as a person, I like to talk, and I like to share my perspective on the world, and I like to raise awareness about certain issues, and I also like to introduce my culture to many people.
Yeah.
So I cannot thank you enough for creating this platform, and
Thank you so much for joining.
Extremely grateful for it, and I wish you the best with your future endeavors, even when you unfortunately leave us, go back to Switzerland. But thank you very much.
Thank you, man, for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, then. Peace out.
Peace.